What is up, everybody? We're back. The Selling Portage Podcast, episode 6. You'll notice that Colin and I are ready for golf. We're about to head out to the COPP golf tournament.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good golf day, especially for redhead.
Oh?
Yeah, high of 19, no sunburn in my future.
You know that sunburns aren't directly correlated to temperature, right?
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
I am a 41-year veteran of being a redhead. I know all the ins and outs of the UV index, and actually, even my kids now, they wake up in the morning. What's the UV today?
Ooh.
It's pretty pathetic, but
Not me. I can handle all of the sun in the world, apparently. But whatever. What are we talking about today, Colin?
I don't know. What are we talking about?
I think we should talk about, as we get into the fall, why it is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of listing in the fall, and as we get towards winter, why you should keep your house on the market.
Yes. No,
That's
I agree.
a topic that probably doesn't get talked about very much because we are in the Central Plains of Manitoba, which means we have the extremes of temperature. In the summer, it is hot. We truly have 4 seasons, and in the winter, it is cold and there is snow, and people do not want to, generally speaking, unless you're one of these lunatics that like snowmobiling, which I never fully understood, but you generally want to stay indoors where it's warm or go to, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're
There's
saying.
this notion that houses don't sell in the wintertime.
And that is not true.
Yeah. You know which houses sell in the wintertime?
Tell me.
The ones that are on the market.
Hey, that's good. I like that.
However, it's also sometimes the more challenging homes to sell in the wintertime because of the lack of inventory, because there is a real idea out there that the only good time to sell my home is in the spring or in the fall. And then when winter hits, it's all over. We might as well take it off the market from December until April. Right? Not true. All the ones that I've had listed that I've sold that were challenging ones. When I say challenging, means they just weren't appealing to mass amounts of buyers. It was a certain person that wanted that house or a certain person that would come along as a buyer. And because there was not a lot of inventory out there and their selection was limited, those houses sold. Now, the people love those houses, but there was always some little thing that prevented them from selling or turned buyers off.
Right. No, and that's true. Like, as we get into the fall, we can tell we're heading in that direction now. Get into the fall and then into the winter, and the less inventory on the market definitely reduces that market competition, right?
Yeah. And I will tell you that in previous years, doing this will be my 8th winter coming up doing this. I have had my best sales months for many, many years in February.
Right. I remember that from this year.
Yeah, because I have sometimes listings that just have sat around and all of a sudden they're just gone. People need places to live still.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is too, in the colder months, the buyers, like if you're thinking of listing your house and you're hesitant to list it in the fall or the winter because you want to wait for that spring market. The good thing about the fall or the winter is that the buyers are actually more in decision-making mode as well.
Well, who wants to go look at 25 houses when it's minus 40, right?
Right. They tend to look past those smaller things that would normally turn them off in the springtime when it's nice out and you can walk a whole neighborhood of open houses, right?
Yeah. It's less of an activity and more of a mission.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Now, that being said, there will still be those people that decide to pull their listing in the wintertime, which is, the advice, and it's completely up to the client, of course, who's listing their home. If they decide they want to pull their listing after a month or whatever, because there's no action. But I would encourage sellers to leave their listing up for as long as they sign that contract, to leave that listing up.
Right.
As realtors, we put a fair amount of time and, in some cases, finances behind advertising these, and it kind of sucks to have the wool or the rug pulled right out from under you.
Well, yeah, exactly.
In the middle of marketing something, right?
Well, and the other thing too, in the winter, like depending on what kind of features you have in your home, especially if you have something like a wood burning or a gas fireplace, you can't really. It's in the summer. It's just there to look at, right? You can't really showcase that as a selling feature in the summer, but in the cooler months, and you've got an open house or you've got, you have a showing coming, turn that puppy on. Showcase the fact that you have a secondary heat source in your home.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because that's a great thing to point out. It's the opposite in the summertime where you're showcasing the air conditioning of the house.
Right.
There's these things that sit dormant depending on what season you're in.
Right.
Like, for example, a home inspector should not be turning on the AC and running it in February to make sure it's working, because it could potentially damage the unit.
Exactly.
And you really would have a difficult time. You'd have to you'd have to do a lot of stuff to get that fired up. So it's not something that should happen. And, Steve, who is the guy from Assiniboine Home Inspections here in Portage, won't test an air conditioner between certain months when it's cold outside. And that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right. Well, and like a wood stove or a fireplace is a little bit different than an air conditioner too, because air conditioning is now like an expectation when people are looking at a home, especially if you are a buyer in the summertime. You walk into a house and it's 30 degrees in the house. You're probably walking out within the next 5 minutes, and not even considering the home, because air conditioning has just become an expectation now.
Which is also a little bit weird because the prices of these things have gone down so much. It's pretty easy to get a central air conditioner put into a home these days.
Right.
Unless, of course, you're one of those unfortunate homes that has radiant heat,
right,
or something like that.
Some sort of boiler unit.
Yeah. Then it's a whole different ballgame. But we digress, of course. But yeah. That is what I always tell my clients. Anyway, keep your home in the market. Now, when you're getting prepped for fall, what path do we want to go down here?
Well, if I can just touch on so everyone loves the spring market, right? And everyone hears about the spring market. Oh, the spring is the best time to sell your home, which it is a very good time to sell your home. However, when it comes to that actual curb appeal of your property, the spring is kind of the ugliest time that someone will ever see your yard, right? Winter, you've got snow covering everything up. In the fall, you've got all the colors of the leaves changing. In the summer, you've got the green grass. But in the spring, it's usually some mud, some sand from the streets being plowed, sitting on your front curb, lots of dog shit in the backyard.
Well,
Sorry, dog waste.
I have a story related to that, actually.
but you want to use those fall colors, those winter colors, that curb appeal to help sell your home, in the fall and winter months too, right?
That's right. And then you get into things like Halloween. Okay, let's focus on that because it's right around the corner, as is Thanksgiving, but you can get away with some Thanksgiving decor when you are getting ready to sell your home. Maybe lay off the Halloween decorating a little bit, because that's great until November 1st, and then it's just weird.
Right.
You have these photos of your home that are sitting there with all kinds of weird, demonic, potentially things, strewn about the house, and it doesn't make any sense once you get to about November 15th,
Yeah.
you know, and then Christmas. We'll get to that on another episode. Love Christmas, but you know, if you're listing your home November 1st, okay.
Yeah.
If you're listing your home on December 20th,
Yeah. It better sell before the 25th.
before
or your
the
pictures
25th.
are null and void.
Yeah. Or you're getting the photographer in there a couple of times.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to point out about, one of the benefits of selling in the fall or the winter is the possession dates tend to be a little more flexible as well, right? You don't have people trying to rush possession dates because they want to be settled before the next school year, or you have those summer employment relocations where the possession dates requested by the buyer are pretty set in stone. As a seller and as a buyer, you have a little more flexibility in the fall and winter because there's not as much of that happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you know what? You mentioned the dog shit in the backyard. Now, that's the benefit of being a buyer in the fall before the snow flies, because there's not going to be any surprises in spring.
Yeah.
You're going to see what's going on. You're going to know if they have animals. You're going to see what kind of shape the yard is in before it has a nice layer of hiding snow on top of it. And you're going to know what you're getting yourself into, because I have had situations where I've had to, months after the sale, negotiate between a buyer and a seller, because as the snow melted, more and more debris was revealed from the family dog that lived there previous to the new owner.
Jeez.
And there was a handshake agreement to let the seller come back and get some things. And that handshake agreement was put to the test because the new owner now wanted all of that cleaned up before anyone set foot in that yard and took any of that stuff they agreed to let go. So
That's fair.
it was when you start getting those calls as a realtor months after the fact, you kind of are like the pseudo lawyer that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
You're trying to like go back and forth between two people and work this out. And you can always do it. But
I have a similar story about. Sorry, I cut you off there.
Well, there's the last thing is occasionally people will expect the realtors to pay for stuff, and sometimes they do, just to make peace and make it go away and have no hard feelings at all. So, there's those services. So maybe we'll get into that in some future episode. But those services like cleanup, garbage removal, landscaping, lawn maintenance, cleaning inside the house. Which, by the way, I've got some people that I hire on a regular basis going to town at a listing coming up right now. But anyway, you go ahead.
Well, no, and that's a good point, and we will get into that in a later episode. But I have done a little bit of that myself in a few previous listings. When it made sense. Little touch ups here and there, repairs. I'm not very good on the tools, let's say, but there's a few things. There's a few things that I'm capable of, and I'm more than happy to do it. But the thing is, the seller also has to be in the mindset that they want to sell the house as well, right? It's a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money, like you said, that I know you and I both do, to go that extra mile, because the goal is to sell the house. So what we don't want is the seller to come back and say, well, you made it look really good. Let's actually list it for more money.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and you know what? There's something to that. And when I go into the house, like when I'm telling a client how much I think they should list their house for, there is the as it sits right now price, or there
right,
is the if you do these things price.
right,
Now, I have seen homes that had so much just stuff in them that it killed a potential sale.
right.
Um, your things can ruin a sale, and I think we talked about that a little bit last week.
Yep.
But that's very true.
Well, and that's, I mean, another good reason why you want to hire a realtor, because we can go through those scenarios with you, right? The as is price, as it sits at this very moment, um, what we can potentially boost the price up to if you did those few little things. And then we're also there to tell you, or guide you along the way of, you know, my countertop, which is in good shape in my kitchen, is outdated. Should I replace the whole thing? Will that up the value? You know, and most times something like that, the price tag attached, doesn't make sense to do when you're selling the place, right? It's one thing if it's all falling apart, but
Yeah.
if it's a little outdated style wise, then you know, it's you'll never get your money back out of that.
You have the things that increase value, and you have the things that remove barriers to the sale.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always the same. So aesthetically, that will increase or remove the barriers to the sale potentially, because somebody won't move in there and or go through there and think I don't have to do that. It looks great. But will it increase the value, the amount of money they're willing to pay? And that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
No. Is the furnace 10 years old? Well, it's got a life expectancy of 25. These things are not negotiating factors. People expect to have a furnace. They expect to have a hot water tank. They expect these things to work.
Right.
They
Exactly.
expect the roof to be keeping out the elements. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
quickly, my story. First house I ever bought on Beresford Avenue in Winnipeg. Bought it in the wintertime, took possession in the early spring. So when I went and looked at it, I think it was mid-February, I went and looked at it. And the listing on MLS had one summer picture of the front yard, which looked very nice. But the rest of the pictures were taken in the winter when the listing went up. And so this house had a giant backyard, and I was quite excited for it because, you know, up to that point, I had only lived in apartment blocks or rental places, right? And so I took possession in the early spring. The snow melted. This massive backyard was all gravel, and like gravel, the kind of gravel where there was like probably 4 foot weeds growing out of it before the snow fell. And it was very disappointing because I had two very young kids at the time. And I was just excited for this fully fenced backyard, which turned out to be all gravel. And they were only at an age where they were crawling at that point. So it cost me thousands of dollars to get rid of that gravel and get dirt and plant grass in the backyard. So
now, did you
um,
contact your realtor?
um, I did not, and I won't name any names, but as a first-time home buyer and not knowing any better, I just called the person from the sign, and the person on the sign, they have their number one priority is the client listing the house, right? And so she had offered to assist me in writing up the offer and double ended it. And there was a lot of things that I know now that I wish I knew back then that would have saved me thousands of dollars. And the grass being one of them, a number of other things had happened with that house. But as the buyer who just used the listing agent to facilitate the sale, I was kind of told at the end of it, too bad, so sad, buyer beware, is was her exact words actually. So it was it was pretty poor.
She said that
She said that
about the gravel.
about the gravel, about the carpenter ant infestation, about the water in the basement. Because as a young first-time home buyer, I didn't know what a PDS was. I was not protected because I didn't have my own realtor, for any of to know that a PDS was something you would want to get,
Well, okay. I gotta stop you a little bit, because if you get the right realtor, they can represent both sides and make it fair.
Well, that's what I mean.
Knowing they need to disclose all of these things, instead of this particular one, honestly, seems like somebody that just wants to close a deal.
Yeah.
So I don't think they were representing either side adequately. They were probably just thinking about their bank account. And we can say that because we're not naming names.
Right.
That's where I think they were going. And there's a little bit of that happens everywhere. And it drives me crazy.
Yes. Well, no, and I didn't mean to go off track there, but
yeah,
you're right. There, when you have a good agent, there are protection measures in place to make sure that both sides are treated fairly, even if the agent double ends it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to do your research when you are looking for an agent, to make sure that you're not the one with egg on your face at the end of the day.
I had a question about this story.
Yes.
Did the subject of a home inspection come up?
Did it come up? I'm not sure.
So basically, you wrote an offer and were told where to sign.
Yes, like I had no home inspection, but I honestly couldn't tell you if I was asked if I wanted a home inspection.
Well, I am sorry you had that experience.
Oh, that's okay. You live and you learn.
Because you had that experience, it will make you a better agent today.
Exactly.
Remember how that felt and how you will never call that agent again.
Yes, and I will always remember her name.
Well, we've narrowed it down to at least the gender, but there's like 1,500 of possible options that could be. So yeah. Anyway, buddy, we got to go golf. So let's jump off of here. I'm going to post this video right now. Once it's processed, and then we will.
Can I just say one more thing before we take off here?
No.
Just another. Like, obviously, were you outside this morning? It's a little bit cooler. It's actually going to be the perfect day for golf, 19 degrees. But fall's around the corner when men's league at the Portage Golf Course comes to an end.
I'm just going to hit end right now.
Fair enough. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
You go ahead, Colin. You rub it in. Let's go.
Okay. So if you look on the right side of your screen, you will see the champion of the Colin and Ryan competition of 2024 at Men's League Golf at the Portage Golf Course.
Okay. It's like I feel like I'm like Al Gore here. I won the popular vote.
Good analogy.
I actually won more games, but the one that counted, well, that one goes to you.
Yeah.
But boy, did I have some bad luck. You must admit that I had some. When you hit a tree dead on and it bounces the ball all the way back to the tee box, that's terrible luck.
Yeah. No, and had you not had, well, I have two that I can remember, two very, very unlucky shots last night, you would have beat me pretty handily had those not happened. So
it was wild. Like, it was just like nature was against me last night.
Exactly. But I'm very much looking forward to golfing with you again today, because throughout this summer, you've been one hell of a golf partner.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And you as well.
So let's sign off here and let's go golfing.
Let's go do some fun things.
Okay, buddy. We'll see you shortly.